Hello, everyone. Just waiting for everyone to join. Amazing. Okay, so thank you for joining. This is going to be Halton Environmental Network talking about Ontario Envirothon 2021. And we will start off with the land acknowledgements first. So as a community, we have the responsibility to honor, care for, and respect all the creation gives to provide us with life. This includes the land, water, air, fire, animals, plants, and our ancestors. The Anishinaabe peoples have utilized this land for millennia, and we would like to acknowledge the direct descendants, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land upon which we live, work, and conduct ourselves. We acknowledge our treaty relationship and responsibilities to both the land and these original peoples. We also recognize that this land is rich in pre-contact history and customs, which includes the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee, and since European contact has and continues to become home for Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. And it is in the spirit and intent of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement, whereby we will collectively care for and respect the land, water, animals, and each other in the interest of peace and friendship and for the benefit of not only ourselves, but of our future descendants. So thanks everyone for joining. Just as a disclaimer, this is being recorded and will be posted onto the Halton Environmental Network website. As well, it will be emailed to attendees who are here, as well as who had registered but unfortunately couldn't make it. So our agenda for today is just a quick recap of who is HEN and Forest Ontario, what is Envirothon, the regional competition requirements, and then we'll have an open Q&A session for anyone who has any questions. So just a brief overview, HEN is one of the partners who are helping with the Halton Envirothon. We run a lot of programs such as Halton Green Screens, Generation Green, and Oakville Ready. Our overall goal is to educate and raise awareness for climate action in Halton municipalities through all our various programming initiatives. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then Forest Ontario, they are actually holding the Ontario Envirothon. So they have multiple regions who are doing the regional Envirothons, and they are the ones who are ensuring that all the competitions are going as planned. So overall, they are dedicated to the renewal and stewardship of forests. And a really cool program that I wanted to highlight from them is they have planted more than 34 million trees and have worked with thousands of students across the province. So they're a really great organization that HEN is really happy to be partnering with to get this Halton Envirothon off the ground. So what is Envirothon? So that's exactly why you're here today. It's North America's largest educational competition that's based on the environment. It actually came about in 1979 as the Environmental Olympics, and it was a great way to encourage high school students to become more interested in natural resources, conservation, environmental issues, and really encourage them to look into environmental careers and to pursue them after high school. So as I mentioned, Envirothon is North America's largest education competition, and there has been over 500,000 students who annually participate in this. So it is team-based plus a mentor. Every team needs an adult, whether it's a teacher or a coach that's paired along with them, just because students are underage, so they do need supervision. It is a series of community science challenges. Before COVID had occurred, this looked like through workshops and hands-on materials and activities that they could do, and oftentimes had outdoor field trips. But now, because of COVID, it has changed over to the online platform. So now we are using the iNaturalist app, which I will go into more detail later in the call. And the goal is to complete all challenges that are there. There are currently 3 right now. And the more challenges that you complete, the greater chance you'll be able to go to provincial. So right now we're looking for 5 Halton teams, and 3 of those 5 would end up going to provincials based on the amount of challenges that they complete. So as I mentioned, for the challenges, these are the range of topics that are covered through it. So climate change, natural systems, Indigenous knowledge, even going to policy, regulations, and laws, and especially the government system as well, and how we can get nature-based solutions for climate change. And it's overall promoting environmental values and goals so that we can have a better economy. So these are all things that people will learn as they get involved with this program. So as I mentioned before, the objectives from a teacher slash mentor perspective who will be helping the Envirothon team, it's really to increase students' awareness about basic science concepts. And right now with Envirothon this year, the topics that are going to be looked at more closely are forestry, wildlife, aquatic ecology, and soil, as well as the current environmental issues each year. So this is a great way for teachers especially to incorporate it into their classes as like an extracurricular activity or as part of the actual education component for like a class to work together. Next slide, please. And then from a student's perspective, again, you're learning about environmental science, building deeper connections with the community. It's definitely a great exposure for career opportunities, and it really gets you thinking about the different environmental issues that are happening. And the interesting part about this is it is a competition. So no volunteer hours are given for this Envirothon, but you will have the chance to compete on a regional scale, provincial scale, and potentially a national scale if you get to that point. So there are cash prizes and a certificate that is given out for anyone who completes the program. So just to go into the rules and regulations, each team has to be 5 students from the same school, homeschool group, or local organization. There is a very strict rule that they cannot have students across different schools. They must be within the same school that you're enrolled in. So there are 2 strands, which is the competitive and the non-competitive strand. For the competitive, it is open only for grade 9 through 12, and they must be enrolled for the entire year. So all 5 students have to be within grade 9 through 12 in the same school or same community group. Then for the non-competitive strand, it's open to grade 8 to grade 12. And these are individual participants who don't necessarily want to actually compete in Envirothon for the chance to go to provincials and nationals. It's more just to get acquainted with the program, learn about the challenges that they're putting out, and get more familiarized with the iNaturalist app itself. So for anyone who does register for the competitive strand, teachers or the mentor who is paired with each team will be provided access following the registration. And then 3 teams, as I mentioned before, will be selected to go to provincial competition through a weighted draw. All right, so going into the regional Envirothon, I'm going to be walking through the things that you'll need to do before April 30th, which is the deadline to complete this if you would like to be a part of the provincial competition. Next slide. Thank you. So as I mentioned before, iNaturalist is an app that we'll be using. And it's really, really cool actually, because you can record organisms and maintain these lists on one cloud. And this is really useful data for scientists or even resource managers or conservationists to really understand when and where organisms are occurring. So it's a great app to just learn more about nature, which is why Forest Ontario decided to choose this as an online platform to complete challenges. So far there are 3 Envirothon challenges through this iNaturalist app. And as I mentioned, more completed will increase your chances to get to provincial. So if you go to the next slide, um, just to summarize with the Regional Envirothon, it is a series of online challenges. I will be detailing what each challenge is, just so you have a familiarity of what the actual asks are. So to participate in it, teachers or the mentor, it doesn't have to be a teacher, it just has to be an adult that's paired with each team above the age of 21, I believe. Um, and once you download the iNaturalist app, you just have to submit the username to Forest Ontario so that you can actually gain access and complete the challenges that they have listed. Um, and all of this must be completed by April 30th, 2021 in time for the provincial competition. So this is just a brief overview of how to actually join Envirothon should you choose to want to do it. These slides will be shared if you want to go ahead with registering, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. If we go to the next one. So these are the challenges. So the first challenge that's already out is ID a tree. So for the Envirothon teams, the goal is to identify 15 trees, and you have to list 3 key identifying features for each of them, and you have to justify your reasoning. So things like deciduous versus coniferous, all of those things, you have to go out into nature and take those pictures. And through the iNaturalist app, you are adding notes for each one. And then if you are a registered individual, so you're not competing in the actual competition stream, you only have to identify 5 trees. And again, just pair it with the 3 key identifying features. So while registered individuals aren't competing, it's still contributing to the overall database of the iNaturalist app. So both are really prevalent in completing this. So for the next challenge, it's I saw the animal signs. So for the Envirothon teams, you have to find signs of 4 animals. So this is through photographic evidence, and it's really cool because you can look for tracks, remains, feathers, a den, or any other feature that can identify that the animal was actually there. And again, each one needs to be paired with observations just to pair it with the photographic evidence. So just as a note, you cannot have observations as pets or anything in your home. They have to be outside in the wild, in nature, and taking photographs of that. So animals can range from, birds or the coyotes, wolves, anything like that. Obviously, from a distance, you don't want to be up in front of them, but it's not the actual animal that you're taking a picture of. It's just the evidence that they were there. So you're looking for like the home of it or any remains that they're leaving behind, such as bones. Like if they've eaten and left behind all the scraps, that's what you would be photographing. So for the third challenge is bird is the word. And this is just identifying local birds either through appearance or song. So the really cool thing about the iNaturalist app is you can either take photos or record the audio. So in my home, actually, we are really close to like a bird sanctuary. So we have like hummingbirds come and they wake me up every single morning. So this is a really great opportunity just from your home itself to record and submit this as part of the challenge. So as a team, you have to collectively make 10 bird observations. If you're doing it through an individual participant, then you only need to do 4. So all of them have to be through photographs, audio, or both, and you must include a reasoning for each one. So next slide. So once you've completed each challenge, part of the requirements is to submit a Google form. So for each challenge, there's a specific Google form and it's very straightforward. You just need to put down who your Envirothon team is and then writing down the actual observations that you have been noting for each of the 15 or 5 ID features. So for this specific one, you can see below it just says required 3 ID features. So that's why you have your notes for each of the challenges. You're just copying and pasting it directly in here. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you complete all of these challenges before April 30th, then you are put into a hat for the Provincial Envirothon. So as I mentioned before, we are only selecting 3 Halton teams to go to provincials. Right now, we don't have a full 5 teams yet, and we're always open to having more teams coming in to compete on a regional scale. And depending on how many teams actually sign up, we could have more than 3 people advance to the Provincial Envirothon. So again, if you're able to complete all 3 challenges on the regional scale, that just increases your chances of actually moving on to the provincial. So the provincial looks a little bit different. They are asking for a presentation on a scenario that has not yet been announced yet, but it's based on the 2021 nature-based solutions to climate change. So these presentations will be released on May 17th at 9:30. There's no way to prepare in advance for this because there's only 48 hours between May 17th to May 19th to complete the presentation. So all copies of the presentation must be submitted to Forest Ontario no later than May 19th, 9:30. So that's exactly 48 hours you have to create a 10-minute presentation, and any supplementary portions that you have in addition, like visual aids, need to be submitted by then as well. So you will be put in front of a judging panel, and each team member needs to equally contribute to the presentation speaking portion. And you only have 10 minutes to present on the specific scenario. So if you happen to go over that time, you actually get deducted from your final score. And then there's a Q&A session at the end with 5 additional minutes for that to happen. And then whoever is scored the highest will then move on to the National Envirothon as a representation for Ontario. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we've gone through both the regional and the provincial Envirothon and what's kind of required of it and what it looks like through the online format, teachers or the mentor have to register their Envirothon team of 5 students, and they'll be able to get like a registration kit after that gives next steps on how to actually finish all of your regional competition challenges. And for the students, you just need to grab 5 of your friends. Again, they have to be from the same school or they can be from the same community group. So if you're all involved in, say, like Rotary, that is totally eligible as long as you're all in grade 9 through 12. So that is the exception of, different people from different schools, as long as you have that one uniting factor of a community group. So once you have set up your team and you have a mentor who is an adult to just supervise you through these challenges, There are so many study guides and resources just to look over, and the 4 core topics that you would be learning about is forestry, soils, aquatics, and wildlife. So they do also have webinars that are focused on it. And these topics, just like the background study guides, will help you for the actual Envirothon championships. So when you register, the fees are $100 per a team of 5 students. So if you break it down, it's $25 per a student to participate in the regional events. And then should you be chosen to go to provincials, there's an additional another $100 per a team. So for each student, if they happen to go to both the regional and provincial, that's looking at $50 per a student to participate in those events combined. And I will just note for the nationals, there is no additional fee because Forest Ontario would be covering that should you be chosen to get to that next level, that final level for the nationals. Next slide. Thank you. All right, so these are the important dates that I would like to draw your attention to. So the iNaturalist Challenge deadline, which was the 3 challenges that I showed you, are due by April 30th. So they have to be submitted before that time, meaning not only are all the photographic evidence taken, but all the Google Forms, which are 3, so there's 1 for each challenge, needs to be completed by that date. As for the registration, it's open registration. They don't have a deadline, but they just need you to register before April 30th. So for people who are really pushing the deadline, they could technically register on April 29th and then finish all the challenges by April 30th. That's totally okay, as long as that registration is done before then. So the next ones are May 7th. So that's when 3 or more teams per region will actually advance to provincials. And then May 17th is when the scenarios drop and you have 48 hours to actually prepare your presentation as a group. And then on May 19th, 48 hours later, that's when you will deliver your presentations to the judging panel. And then on May 26th is when the Envirothon champions are announced online, and we will find out who gets to go to nationals. Next slide. Thank you. So just to surmise, the final steps should you want to get involved with Envirothon is for students to create a team of 5, find a mentor that's either a teacher or a coach or just an adult to sign up on your behalf, and have them register for Envirothon as part of the Halton riding. And the Halton riding is me. I am the one who's in charge of all Halton Envirothon registries. So if you ever have any questions or concerns or just anything that you want to run by me, I will be your point of contact for that. Next step is to download the iNaturalist app. Then you submit the username to Forest Ontario, and they will just take a moment to ensure that you're in the database ready to do the challenges, and then you'll be given the submission to join. And then you start competing with the challenges. There are 3 to complete so far. There should be 1 more that's released within 2 weeks. So there should be 4 or 5 challenges to complete before April 30th. And then fingers crossed, you get selected for provincials after you submit everything by April 30th. Next slide. Thank you. So these are just some resources for you, and I will link them just in the chat box right now. Envirothon has a lot of study materials just for students who want to learn more about all the topics. And I'm just putting them in right now for that. And then to register as well, it has to be a mentor or someone above the age of 18. So that is the registration right there. And that's also my email if you have any questions at all. Next slide. And that is Envirothon in a nutshell. I wanted to give some time just for any questions that you had. Some frequently asked ones have been, does everyone need to download the iNaturalist app to actually participate in the Envirothon competition? And that's like a yes or no. Like, yes, they would like everyone to download it just because it's more of a team effort to do that. But if there are any barriers in technology, that's okay. You can have a few select people have the iNaturalist app downloaded, and then you can take photos to complete all the challenges. So I will give a moment. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and then take yourself off mute to ask me now. Amazing. Thanks, Judy. I hope I was able to give a very clear understanding of what is required. If anything is unsure or you just need some time to think about it and come back to me, I'm just going to put my email in the chat box, and all of you have also received an email from me, so just feel free at any time to just follow up about anything that's unclear, or if you need help registering or even completing the challenges. But if you go on the Envirothon website, it's very clearly laid out on next steps, as well as later tonight, I will be updating the HEN website with all of the steps just so that you have it everywhere. So thanks so much, everyone. Just we'll go to the next slide, which is stay connected. So that's my email. We have our HEN Instagram account as well as the Twitter, and then haltonenvironet.ca is the website where I will have an Envirothon page should you want something that you just need to refer to. If there is any specific questions about program format, important dates, I would still come to me, and then if I'm not able to answer your question, I have a contact at Forest Ontario where she's basically like the provincial coordinator for regional coordinators, which is me, to go to. So if I'm not able to answer it, you will definitely get an answer within 48 hours turnaround once I ask Forest Ontario. So thank you again for coming. I hope you sign up for Envirothon. I totally understand if right now it's not something that you have the time to, but when I was looking at the challenges, it seems not too time intensive. And for students, especially during spring break, this is a perfect opportunity to get out into nature during their time off and to compete for some prizes and a completion certificate. So again, thanks for attending, and let me know if you have questions. We'll be here for the next like 5-10 minutes, but you're welcome to log off and I will definitely send you the recording. If you have any other teachers, students, or organizations who you think would be interested, feel free to forward the recording and presentation to them or direct them to our website or me. More than happy to get more Halton residents on board to Envirothon and get out there and hopefully get the provincial title for Ontario. So thanks again, everyone, and really enjoyed speaking to you today. Thanks, Judy. Bye. Thank you, Camilla. Have a great night.